Good afternoon. Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India Live, India's voice to the world. I'm Shubhendu Ghosh, coming up in the next 30 minutes. Captured Venezuelan leader Maduro put in New York detention center. Vice President Delcy Rodriguez to assume charge as interim president of Venezuela. Venezuelans react to US Maduro arrest with hope and uncertainty. At home and abroad, Venezuelans celebrating and protesting against US actions. Britain and France jointly carry out strikes against ISIS targets in Syria. Prime Minister Narendra Modi to virtually inaugurate 72nd National Volleyball Tournament. Over 1,000 players from across India participating. Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro was in a New York detention center on Sunday after US President Donald Trump ordered an audacious American raid to capture the South American leader and take control of the country and its vast oil reserves. As part of dramatic operation early on Saturday, US Special Forces seized Maduro and his wife, Celia Flores, and transported them via helicopter to a US Navy ship offshore before flying them to the United States. For months, Trump's administration criticized Maduro over what it called his involvement in shipping drugs to the United States. It ramped up pressure with the massive military buildup in the Caribbean and a series of deadly missile attacks on alleged drug-running boats. US President Donald Trump watched live as American forces carried out military operation that led to the capture of Venezuelan leader Maduro. Later at a news conference in Mar-a-Lago, Donald Trump promised to put Venezuela under American control for now, including by deploying US forces if necessary.
We're going to run the country until such time as we can do a safe, proper, and judicious transition. So we don't want to be involved with having somebody else get in, and we have the same situation that we had for the last long period of years. So we are going to run the country until such time as we can do a safe, proper, and judicious transition. And it has to be judicious, because that's what we're all about. We want peace, liberty, and justice for the great people of Venezuela.
Trump also said US will look to tap Venezuela's massive oil reserves, recruiting American companies to overhaul the gutted industry and using US troops for security.
We're going to have our very large United States oil companies, the biggest anywhere in the world, go in, spend billions of dollars, fix the badly broken infrastructure, the oil infrastructure, and start making money for the country.
From bus driver to president, Nicolas Maduro's journey reflects the complexities of Venezuela's modern history. A close ally of Hugo Chavez, he rose from union activism and foreign diplomacy before assuming the nation's highest office. His tenure faced many economic challenges, mass migration, and criticism from human rights groups. Following the US strike on Caracas, Maduro's capture has drawn global attention, raising concerns over regional stability and energy markets. DD India's Rahul Upadhyay has more. Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro rose from humble beginnings in Caracas to the center of geopolitical storm. His journey reflects both loyalty to Hugo Chavez's socialist vision and the turbulence of Venezuela's modern history. Maduro was born in 1962 in a working-class leftist family in Caracas. Influenced by his father, a trade union leader, he entered labor activism early. In the 1980s, he worked as a bus driver while organizing transport unions. His political training in Cuba and support for Hugo Chavez's failed 1992 coup cemented his role in the Bolivarian movement. By 1999, Maduro was elected to the National Constituent Assembly, where he contributed in drafting Venezuela's new constitution. He later secured a seat in the National Assembly, rising to Speaker in 2005. From 2006 to 2013, he served as Foreign Minister, strengthening ties with Russia, China and Iran. In December 2012, Chavez, battling cancer, publicly endorsed Maduro as his successor. Following Chavez's death in March 2013, Maduro was sworn in as interim president. He narrowly won the April election against Enrique Capriles, sparking demands for a recount. His presidency has since been marked by economic collapse, hyperinflation, food and medicine shortages, and mass migration. While critics blame corruption and mismanagement, Maduro insists US sanctions and economic warfare are responsible. Maduro secured re-election in 2018 amid allegations of fraud, and in 2024 claimed victory in another disputed vote. Beginning a third term in January 2025, human rights groups accuse his government of repression, including arbitrary detentions and violations of civil liberties. The US-Venezuela conflict escalated sharply in 2025. Washington seized Venezuelan government assets, struck boats accused of narcotics trafficking, and designated Maduro's circle as a terrorist organization. Maduro responded with warnings of declaring a state of emergency and claims of advanced Russian-made air defenses. On January 3, 2026, US President Donald Trump announced a dramatic military strike on Caracas. According to Washington, Nicolas Maduro and his wife, Celia Flores, were captured and flown out of Venezuela. The move has triggered global shockwaves, with regional leaders warning of destabilization in Latin America and OPEC raising concerns about oil market volatility. Maduro's rule has seen Venezuela's oil output plummet, once the backbone of its economy. However, Maduro maintained military loyalty and alliances with Russia, Iran and Cuba until the latest US strike shifted the balance. Rahul Upadhyay's report for DD India.
Meanwhile, Venezuela's Supreme Court ordered Vice President Delcy Rodriguez to assume the role of acting president of the country in the absence of Nicolas Maduro, who was detained in an operation by the United States forces. The ruling added that the court will debate the matter in order to determine the applicable legal framework to guarantee the continuity of the state, the administration, the government, and the defense of the sovereignty in the face of forced absence of the President of the Republic. Lawmakers in the United States on both sides of the aisle reacted to the strikes on Venezuela and capturing of its leader, Nicolas Maduro. Democratic members of the U.S. Congress said on Saturday that senior officials of President Trump's administration had misled them during recent briefings about plans for Venezuela by insisting that they were not planning regime change in Caracas. While Republican members of the U.S. House expressed strong support for President Trump's actions. India has urged its nationals to avoid all non-essential travel to Venezuela after U.S. troops captured the South American country's president, Nicolas Maduro, and took him and his wife to the U.S. following a military assault on Caracas. As per the advisory, all Indians currently in Venezuela were advised to exercise extreme caution, restrict their movements, and remain in contact with the Indian Embassy in Caracas through email or emergency phone number as shown on your screens.
And the world reacted to US strikes on Venezuela capturing Maduro on Saturday. French President Emmanuel Macron praised the US removal of Venezuelan leader and said the transition must be peaceful, democratic and respectful of the will of its people. German Chancellor Friedrich Merz called the legal assessment of US strikes on Venezuela complex. UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres voiced his concern over the escalation between US and Venezuela, culminating in capture of President Maduro, saying the developments constitute a dangerous precedent. Meanwhile, Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu praised Trump for capturing Venezuela's President Maduro, saluting his decisive resolve and brilliant action of brave soldiers. On the other hand, China criticized the interference of US in Venezuela crisis. According to Chinese Foreign Ministry statement, China is deeply shocked and strongly condemns the use of force by the US against a sovereign country and the use of force against the president of a country. Russia also condemned US strikes against Venezuela and called for peace and resolution through dialogue. British Prime Minister Keir Starmer has refused to be drawn into whether or not US President Trump's military action against Venezuela may have broken international law.
I want to establish the facts first. I want to speak to President Trump. I want to speak to allies. As I say, I can be absolutely clear that we were not involved in that. And as you know, I always say and believe we should all uphold international law.
The United Nations Security Council is due to meet on Monday after US attacked Venezuela and deposed its long-serving autocratic president, Nicolas Maduro. The UN Security Council has met twice in October and December over the escalating tensions between the United States and Venezuela. This was last year. United States lifted airspace restrictions over the Caribbean late on Saturday after barring commercial flights during a US military operation that led to capture of Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro. In a post on X, US Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy said the initial restrictions expired at 500 GMT when flights could resume as scheduled. Airlines are informed and will update their schedules quickly. The US Federal Aviation Administration notified commercial airlines on Saturday to avoid Caribbean airspace, citing potentially hazardous situation. The notice said closure was issued due to safety of flight risk associated with ongoing military activity. Venezuelans celebrated the ouster of President Nicolas Maduro with dancing and fireworks. Chants celebrating Maduro's capture were heard on the streets of capital cities in Latin America and in Spain, where Venezuelans gathered to share their joy. Also, dozens of Venezuelan and Mexican demonstrators gathered outside US and Venezuelan embassy in Mexico City. Pro-Maduro supporters waved Venezuelan flags and chanted slogans rejecting what they called US interventionism, with California resident Margaret stating that Trump was trying to distract from domestic problems by killing innocent people. Moving on to other stories, Britain and France's air forces conducted joint operation on Saturday evening to bomb a suspected underground arms cache to previously used by Islamic State group in Syria. British Defence Secretary John Healey described the strike on Saturday as part of ongoing efforts to prevent Daesh from rebuilding its capabilities and spreading what he called its dangerous and violent ideologies. Western aircraft have been conducting patrols to stop a resurgence of Islamist militant group that ruled parts of Syria until 2019. Britain says intelligence analysis identified an underground facility believed to be used to store weapons and explosives in mountains of north of Palmyra.
Britain said the area was devoid of any civilian habitation before the attack and that all its aircraft had returned safely. Britain said it used Typhoon FGR-4 combat to bomb the target, supported by Voyager refueling tanker. North Korea has fired a ballistic missile towards the sea of its east coast, South Korea's Joint Chief of Staff informed in a statement on Sunday. According to Japan's Ministry of Defense, the missile is believed to have already fallen. The last time Pyongyang tested its ballistic missile was in November. North Korean leader Kim Jong-un called for more than double the production capacity of tactical guided weapons on his latest visit to a munitions factory. The first launch of North Korea's ballistic missiles in 2 months comes as South Korea President Lee Jae-myung left for China on Sunday for state visit, where Seoul has said peace on the Korean peninsula would be discussed. In recent months, Kim has made a series of visits to factories that build weapons as well as to nuclear-powered submarine and has overseen missile tests ahead of next year's 9th Party Congress of the Workers' Party, convened to set out major policy goals. And we're heading for a short break. There's more coming up.
Jharkhand will mesmerize you with majestic nature, rich heritage and colorful culture.
Johar.
Johar. It fits perfectly.
Thank you.
Full workout हो गया.
Ready?
Postcards from Jharkhand on National Geographic.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India Live. I'm Shubhendu Ghosh. Underscoring the growing emphasis on strengthening sports infrastructure and promoting athletic development, Prime Minister Narendra Modi is inaugurating the 72nd National Volleyball Tournament via video conferencing. The inaugural ceremony is being held at Dr. Sampurnanand Sports Stadium, Varanasi. The tournament, being held from 4th to 11th January, will witness participation from across India, with over 1,000 players competing as part of 58 teams representing various states and institutions. The tournament is expected to showcase high standards of competition, sportsmanship and talent in Indian volleyball. The tournament will further enhance the city's profile as a hub for major national events, aligning with its expanding role in hosting significant cultural and sporting initiatives. Moving on, Flag Officer commanding Gujarat Naval Area interacted with the crew of INSSV Kaundinya during an airborne engagement from Dornier aircraft, with the vessel riding the waves of North Arabian Sea. The crew could be seen waving with an emphatic message of grit and resolve, blending navigation, traditional seamanship and contemporary naval professionalism. The vessel radioed the crew of Kaundinya looked beautiful from the air and conveyed best wishes for safe and successful passage ahead. Battling sub-zero temperatures, high winds and relentless snowfall aligned with Indian Army's operational requirements, BRO teams under projects Vijayak, Beacon and Himank are carrying out sustained snow clearance operations at Zojila and other critical high-altitude passes linking Ladakh and Kashmir. BRO teams continue efforts to restore and maintain essential connectivity, supporting uninterrupted movement and operational preparedness in Ladakh and Kashmir. Zojila is often buried under meters of snow during winter. Machineries are being deployed in extreme conditions to ensure the route remains operational despite frequent avalanches and freezing temperatures. More on weather news. A severe cold wave accompanied by dense fog conditions continue to affect large parts of north, central and eastern India on Friday, disrupting daily life and transport services, while heavy snow persisted in higher reaches of Jammu and Kashmir. Here's more.
Dense fog shrouded several parts of India on Saturday as cold weather intensified, disrupting road, rail and air travel. On the Jabalpur-Nagpur National Highway, thick fog reduced visibility, making the stretch highly accident-prone and forcing drivers to proceed cautiously. Truck drivers who had stopped waiting for conditions to improve said that even with fog lights on, navigating through the heavy mist was challenging. It was not just people driving vehicles, but also pedestrians who struggled to move amid poor visibility. Meanwhile, in Uttar Pradesh's spiritual hub Varanasi, biting cold and light rain enveloped the sacred Ganga on Saturday morning. Despite the cold conditions, many pilgrims thronged the ghats to take a holy dip on the occasion of Posh Purnima. Similar fog conditions prevailed across Lucknow and Patna. In Patna, dense fog disrupted train services, causing delays, leaving passengers waiting on platforms amid the severe cold. Similarly, in the national capital Delhi, a thick blanket of fog enveloped the city with the air quality index recorded in the poor category. Flight delays at Indira Gandhi International Airport also disrupted passenger travel amid low visibility.
Today is World Braille Day. The day is dedicated to millions of visually impaired people for whom Braille is a medium of education, independence and dignity. Braille is not just a method of reading and writing, but a bridge to a world of knowledge and opportunity.
Braille is more than just a script. It is a bridge between darkness and knowledge. Based on 6 raised dots and read through touch, Braille was invented by Franz Louis Braille, whose birth anniversary is observed as World Braille Day.
लुई ब्रेल ने ब्रेल बना के बहुत ज़्यादा योगदान दिया, एक बहुत बड़ा योगदान दिया है, क्योंकि जब टेक्नोलॉजी थी ही नहीं, हम टेक्नोलॉजी के बारे में सोचते भी नहीं थे, उस टाइम पे उन्होंने ब्रेल का आविष्कार किया और इससे जो विजुअली इम्पेयर्ड लोग थे उन्हें पढ़ने लिखने में सुविधा हुई.
In India, for millions of visually impaired people, Braille continues to be a lifeline to education and learning. Each raised dot carries not just letters but hopes, dreams and independence.
मेरी सारी पढ़ाई में मतलब जितना भी वर्क है सब मैं ब्रेल में करती हूँ और रीडिंग तो मतलब मुझे ब्रेल बुक्स रीड करने का बहुत ज़्यादा शौक है, तो मुझे बुक्स भी रीड करना बहुत पसंद है. सरकार को भी यह ज्ञात होने लगा है कि एक दृष्टिहीन बच्चा भी पढ़ सकता है और इस चीज़ को देखते हुए सरकार ने बहुत सारे कार्यक्रम आयोजन किए, जैसे विद्यालय में स्पेशल बच्चों के लिए ब्रेल बुक प्रोवाइड करवाना, ब्रेल स्टाइलर शीट, स्टिक जिसे हम केन भी कहते हैं, ये सभी चीज़ें अब धीरे धीरे वो प्रोवाइड करवा रही है.
Today, Braille goes beyond the pages of books. From chessboard to Ludo games, raised markings allow visually impaired players to compete with confidence and equality.
From the Act, the RPD Act, blind people have got a lot of, you can say, privileges and benefits, like reservation in education, scholarships, and reservation in jobs as well. And then government has also kind of created many programs to help the person with disabilities, including the blind. For example, they have set up many Braille presses all over the country and also modernized them. At this time, they are also running a project to kind of make more and more books accessible to the blind as well.
In everyday life, Braille quietly empowers independence. From elevator buttons with raised symbols to magnifiers and large print text for low vision, accessibility opens door to self-reliance. And standing beside them at every step is a white cane, a symbol of strength and mobility, guiding visually impaired people towards a safer and more confident future.
World Braille Day reminds us that to create an inclusive society, we need accessible education and truly inclusive environment. This is Manisha Sharma with me, my colleague Dipali, and camera person Sunny Kalra from DD India, Delhi.
And that's all in this edition of DD India Live. Let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. For those on the go, you can get all the latest news and updates from India and across the world on DD India mobile app. This app is available on both Android and iOS. Scan the QR code on the screen to download now. And we'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Shubhendu Ghosh from all of us here in Delhi. Thanks for watching DD India Live. Namaskar.